slide we are going on is now is no more just information, but now it's going to go into what you need to do. So I think this is the area where we really need to pay attention, because it's converting all the information that we're giving you into what actions you have to take to actualize the implementation of the strategic plan. So we'll proceed along these lines. Now, as a way of introduction, we are looking at the framework for goals. So this is starting from the framework for goals and KPIs. Like I told you, the framework for goals and KPIs is taken out of the strategic plan and put in the format that we can use to have SMART goals for ourselves and be able to plan, monitor, and evaluate our performance. So that's all the essence. So from the framework that we discussed in the previous slides, what actions are, what we are going to look at now are actions that are required for each court. And this is what I've put in this general framework here. So pillar 3 then falls under actions that we need to take, which is planning for implementation. And the two things that we'll focus on there is drawing our own 3-year rolling plans and drawing our own annual, quarterly targets. And the next two set of presentations I'll do will be focused on these two. Now, the next one will be pillar 4, which is performance monitoring and evaluation, which is a PME, but we will not do it under this. We will not look at it. We'll take it at a later date. And that really will look at submission of quarterly reports and annual reports. Submission of quarterly reports and annual reports. So the templates are there, but we will take you through them in the presentation. That should not be a very long one, but I'm not going to focus on it this round because we'll be subjecting you to these things from next year in terms of delivery. So when we have drawn our plans, then we can come and have a discussion as to when we, after implementation, what sort of report are we supposed to submit. And then there's a pillar 2, part of pillar 2, which we have not dealt with, which is performance management system. The MEUs holding the AU account. What processes do we have to go through? There are 2 key pillars there: performance targets, agreements, and performance evaluation. So we'll come to that also later on. But for today, we'll focus on the pillar 3 and the 3-year rolling plans and the annual quarterly targets. So the planning for implementation focuses on 3-year rolling plans and annual quarterly targets. So we now know what TYRP and AQTs are, but now we'll go into the details of each of them. So this, the content will be treated in 2 videos. So this was done so that in terms of the video production, so they have been separated into 2 set of slides. So that's why you see videos here, but this is not a video. This will focus on the 3-year rolling plan, and the next one, then, which is another file, we'll look at video 2, which will look at the annual quarterly targets. So we move straight to the 3-year rolling plan. So this is the pillar 3 that we saw in the big chart. I've just extracted that part of it. And there are 2 parts under this: 3-year rolling plan and annual quarterly targets. And what we are dealing with is the 3-year rolling plan. And what is the 3-year rolling plan? The 3-year rolling plan is about setting targets for each of the goals. So now you go into the KPI framework, there are targets there, there are goals there. You pick the goals that are relevant to you. Then you prepare a plan, a 3-year plan, which is the target for each of the next 3 years that you are setting yourself. So you see a national target, and based on the national target, what sort of target are you setting yourself for the next 3 years? So it's setting targets for each goal for 3 consecutive years. So if I'm planning, if today I'm starting the plan, I'm doing my first 3-year rolling plan, and it's starting from 2021, then I'll set targets for 2021, 2022, and 2023. So that becomes my 3-year rolling plan. And this plan, the intention is that every year we'll update it in terms of taking out the year that has been completed and adding 1 year. So when it comes to 2021 and you are planning for 2022, then you do a 3-year rolling plan for 22, 23, and 24. In 22, you do it for 23, 24, 25, so on. So every time you have a 3-year frame. So you can see how your growth in the framework will be taking place. So every year we'll update the 3-year rolling plan. Some as we go along, some goals may drop, some goals may come in, and so on and so forth. And we'll see how we do this. So the 3-year rolling plan again is for each goal you set 3-year consecutive targets, and this is updated annually. And we are using the national target as a benchmark, I've said it already, and the KPI as a common basis for measurement across courts for performance. So if you are using the same framework, our KPIs are the same for every congregation everywhere, and the KPIs can be transferred up courts through the districts and the presbyteries. So this is very important. This is what we call the 3-year rolling plan. And if you go to the website, you'll see a sample of this. Now, the 3-year rolling plan further provides input for the annual quarterly targets. So this is when you are going to prepare your annual quarterly targets, you should have a 3-year rolling plan. And the first year of the 3-year rolling plan becomes the basis for your annual quarterly targets. It's like an annual plan. So we'll come to that later on. It also provides the benchmarks for your annual reports. Your target KPIs for each goal becomes when you are doing your annual report, you are looking at and comparing. So it becomes your target KPI for each goal, the benchmark for your annual report. Because your target will be what you've promised, and your report will tell you the extent to which you've achieved that promise. It's like MPP in Ghana here. They've promised so much, and now they say they are counting, and it's become an issue because nobody set their measuring targets at the beginning. But if you have measuring targets which are set from the beginning, then you can account yourself against those targets. And they also become inputs for the performance management system. Because if you are going to hold your AO to account, it's out of the targets that you have agreed as a congregation to proceed. It's out of those things that some of them can be selected as the most important ones that will want to hold your agent in charge or your district minister accountable to. It may not be all of them that when you are signing the performance agreement will be highlighted. And this will be determined from time to time by the GAC, and then space is also given by the court to also focus on some other items that they think is important for their own purposes. So it also becomes input for the performance management system, performance target agreements, and performance evaluation. That's the system of the PMS. So this is how important the TYRPs are and what they help us to do. Now, in preparing your local TYRP, you have to choose goals which are applicable to your particular court and location. And this is very important because we are different in terms of demography. We are different in terms of the resources and need, and also we are different in terms of needs. So, and this varies from place to place. You are in North America or Australia, and so your environment is very different from what you find in Kukwantumi. in Ghana here, or Gini in the Brong-Ahafo region. I don't know whether it's now in Brong-Ahafo region or in another region. And so the demographics are different. Our educational levels are different. The human resource available to us to do things are different. And the resources in terms of money is different. Even in terms of communication, we are doing now Zoom meetings and things. There are some congregations who are not able to probably connect to the internet at all. So these are all differences. So this is understood. So that's why it says you have to choose applicable goals when you are doing your 3-year rolling plan. So you see that because you are different, the priority we give to various goals will also differ. And the target set for each of the goals will also differ from place to place. And this is where it's very important, where there's a benchmark, then you have the freedom to choose your own goal, just benchmarking it against what has been set as a national target. So this is very important. There are some people who say, because the national target is 12%, so I will do 12% across without looking at his own circumstances, and so that he can set himself realistic goals. So this is very important. The national target is 12%, but last year you were negative. So how do you move from negative to 12%? You say, I have to put in structures to turn myself around. And I can only promise, let's say, 6% to start with. And if I see how I'm performing on the 6%, probably I may increase it to 8 and then to 12 in the third year. So these are the ways in which we expect you to approach benchmarking yourself against the national target that has been set, except for the places where it's been said that they are mandatory and they are fixed, except for those areas. And we are telling you what the applicable goals include. All the overarching goals are applicable because they are mandatory. All the overarching goals. I think when we went through the Excel sheet, you saw it. And all of them are mandatory. No. All of them are mandatory, and all their targets are fixed. And so they are all applicable, and the national targets are also mandatory. You have to meet them. Now, some of the departmental goals are said to be also mandatory. For instance, winning souls for Christ is mandatory for all congregations and preaching points, and for that matter, all districts and presbyteries. And so you cannot say that winning souls is not applicable to you. It's applicable. It's only that the fact that it should be 20% of your membership, which is the benchmark that you need to work towards. And we have not fixed that. That means you can even negotiate your own target for each of the years. If you think that for some reason you are not able to do the 20% of the previous year's membership. And then when after you've selected all these mandatory goals, then the rest, you have to decide and look at your resources and the way you are organized to see whether they are relevant to you, because they are non-mandatory goals. And if you go into the congregational template that a framework that we've given you, we've indicated which ones are mandatory and which ones are fixed goals. So you can look at them in drawing your own local plan. So all relevant non-mandatory and departmental goals. And then in this case, you are the one who has the choice on choosing what is relevant. And unless that your district minister disagrees with you, then you have to negotiate your way through it. So this is the way in which we can work ourselves into preparing our own 3-year rolling plans. Now, targets. So now that we have done what the goals are, the next thing is the targets that you set yourself. And we are saying that the targets that you set yourself, and this is, okay, Michael.
Yeah, Baba, I have a quick question. So we have a system where a minister can be transferred at whenever we need to. So my question is, we are setting 3-year goal, and we expect the AO to be the district, the minister, the agent in charge. Okay. So if let's say the person has just 1 year to be transferred, and the person draws such a plan and is signed, the person who comes to take over from him or her, is this person going to be, responsible for this thing that he came to meet that was signed before he arrived?
Very, very important question there, Michael. Now, we need to separate two things. When it comes to preparing the TYRP, though is the AO who leads the congregation to prepare the TYRP does not belong to the AO. The TYRP belongs to the court. So this is something, if you're in the congregation, this is something which has to be adopted by the session. So it's a sessions program for the 3 years. Now, when the AO comes, the AO only signs annual target agreements. And those annual target agreements will be based on the targets that the congregations have agreed that they will achieve in terms of the actual target setting. So if you come and you are new, and we said that we are going to win 200 souls, your job as the AO is that what strategies do you come and add to what they are doing already to make sure that you win the 200 souls? And you sign this target agreement year on year, not for a 3-year period. The performance agreement that you sign is only for 1 year, not for 3 years. So the congregation has a plan, a 3-year rolling plan, but you sign agreement only for 1 year. In fact, the difficulty we've had in that aspect is that because transfers take place in September, and but in terms of performance, we are looking at January to December. Then when you have signed your agreement that I'll deliver, then you are transferred. When you are living in, when a new person comes, who takes responsibility for what you signed? Is it still you to the end of the year, or the new person who comes in? That is the only area where we are having some difficulty. But when we come to discuss the performance management system, we will deal with the issues arising from there. But this 3-year rolling plan we are talking about is not owned by the agent in charge. It's not owned by the AO. It's owned by the court. It's a court program. So when you come and meet a court program, it's not you who comes to change that court program. It's the same thing that we discuss about our national government here, that when governments come, then they stop other people's program and come and run their program. We get the same problem in the churches. You get some agents, new agents, when they come, they don't even want to pay attention to any program that they came to meet previously. They sometimes even rubbish and then the congregation leaves everything in their hands and say, okay, if you come with your program, we'll look at you. If you're ready to go, you go, and a new person comes and he brings his own program. So this will also help us that when we go into a congregation, we should look at what programs they are running already. And even if we want to put our influence on it, we should not go and rubbish what they are doing there, but just come and add value to what they are doing, move them further than they thought probably they could go. And that will be the positive ways in which we contribute. So my simple answer is that the plan is a court plan, not the agent's plan. When the agents come, his job is that the plan, the targets that the court has set him, he goes to sign an agreement and say that this is what the court expects me to work to achieve, and I'm going to work to achieve it. And that's what he goes to sign an agreement on.
Okay, Papa, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, but extremely good question. The national targets are, so targets for each goal must be achievable and realistic. And this is the A and R in our SMART goals, isn't it? So when you are setting your own targets, you must be smart about it. You must set targets that you are sure you can achieve and are realistic. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't challenge yourself. Sometimes you set also targets to challenge yourself. So if you want to be mediocre, then you underset your targets. But if you want to be really to challenge yourself, then you set yourself targets that are slightly above what you think you can do, but you only put it there to push yourself to achieve more. So it depends on your attitude towards risk taking. That's when you are setting targets. And in setting targets, we must be aware of the national targets. I've spoken about this already. The national targets are fixed for all overarching goals. They are fixed for mandatory departmental goals as determined by the GAC. So when the GAC says a goal is mandatory, it may decide that the targets are also fixed or not fixed. So you must pay attention to that. And then otherwise, the national targets are benchmarks for all of us in terms of the departmental goals. So I've said this over and over again already. So I'm just showing an example of how the TYRP template looks like. And when you go to the website, this is exactly what you will see. I'm only showing one that has been completed for you. So you typically, so this is under mission and evangelism. So under the Committee of Mission Evangelism, you remember that we had just two goals, MEO1 and MEO2. So the code number is there. The goal, the statement of the goal is also the win souls for Christ, undertake mission activities. Then the key performance indicators are defined. You see that for win souls for Christ, there are two of them. One is actual number of souls won, and then the second one is the percentage of the previous year's membership, because that's how the goal has been, the national goal has been set, that we should aiming at getting 20% of our previous year's membership as the number of souls won. And the unit of measurement is taken. So when it's number, and when it's percentage. That's all that the unit means. So you don't need to write over this. They are common for all of us. Sometimes it's date, sometimes it's money, and so forth. So the units that you are measuring, whatever you are seeing here, is what is here. So this is number of souls. Number here refers to number of souls won. And so the actual PI, CY stands for current year. And the current year is the first year of your plan. So if today I'm planning for, starting from 2021, my current year will be 2021. So my current year minus 1 will be this year, 2020. And so CY minus 1 is current year, previous year of the year before your plan starts, is the current year minus 1. So for instance, I'm saying that the number of souls I won in current year minus 1 is 12. So now, and that represented 10% of my membership in the year before current year minus 1. You see, because that's the way we define this. So this one should be factual. You've done the calculation somewhere, then you bring it here. And then you say that I want to move the number of souls I want in 2020 to 30 in 2021. And that will represent 20% of my membership in 2020. That's what the 20% here means. So you can do a reverse calculation and know what your 2020 membership would have been. In this case, if 20% is 30, then times 5 is 150, isn't it? So that means your membership is 150 in 2020, and 20% of 150 is 30. So it says I'll win 30 souls in 2021. And you are able to say this because you've already done 10%. If this was 0%, then probably 20% will be probably a too much step for you. But because you've already done 10%, you say, oh, look, with a little effort, I can double my target. So I'm going to put in extra effort and move this 12 to 30 which is a representation of 20%. And that means I've already reached the benchmark. And for the next 3 years, I'll say I'll maintain it. That's what I've done here. But somebody will say I can even push myself beyond what the benchmark says. But I will wait, be conscious a little bit and see whether I can even do this 20%. And then next year, when I'm doing a 3-year rolling plan, I say, oh, I can push myself further than 20%. That will be completely up to you if you are promising more than your benchmark. But some people are able to do that, as we saw in the Grand Presbyterian information that I showed you. Some people exceeded their targets a lot more. So if you can exceed the target, national target, so be it. Please go ahead and do it. So in a way, this is the way in which the TYRP template is filled. Now, like I've said, we are developing a software to help you to do this. But even before the software comes, you can pick these things and complete them either in Excel or in Word and communicate them to the higher court when they are ready. So this is the form in which, so each of the committees would then have to sit down and look at what they've been given and see what targets they can agree to compared to the national benchmarks that have been given. So when we say you are preparing a 3-year rolling plan, this is all there is to it. If you are able to do all the groundwork and understand what you are doing, select your applicable goals, and set your 3-year targets for each of them, then this form is completed. And then you've done your 3-year rolling plan. That is what it is about. So, so this is all about 3-year rolling plan, actually, for us. It's just completing this template. And like we said, this template can then be used to, the first year of it is an input into our annual quarterly target, which is actually our annual plan for each of the goals. But we'll come to that in the next slides. There's an exercise on the website, and I will encourage that because we don't have time to do it together as we sit today. Each of us, when we go back, let's go and download that exercise. Let's try it. And if you have questions, you know how to ask your questions. We have given you a website that you can send your questions to when we are completed with this Zoom meeting. So you can send any questions that you have to the website. And if we have answers, we'll send them and probably broadcast the questions and the answers to other people in the future. So please, you are free to go to PCG online and later on, and then try your hands at the exercise that we put forward. So this is the end of this particular video. I'll go on to the next. I'll go out of this and open the next file and continue. Actually, it's a continuation in the next.
Please, I have a question.
Yes, please, questions if you have them.
Yeah, Reverend Francado. Please,
yes,
I want to find. Thank you. Before we started this one, you said we don't have this in what you sent us last week.
Yeah, the videos. Yeah.
Yeah, please. Are we making any arrangement to? Are you making any arrangement to send these ones to us?
Yes, like I said at the beginning, this has been recorded already. I recorded them at the same time that the others were recorded. But apparently the people who were putting them together, the Channel of Hope people, they thought what they put up was all that we did. So I've had to go back to them to finish whatever work they need to do on the those two and upload. It's taking them longer than I expect, but they promised me that they will do that work over this weekend. And so hopefully it should be up for you to work with.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Is there any other question, please?
Yeah. Please, I have a question.
Yeah, Auntie Letitia.
So for Letitia, thank you. One of my questions is that on the area of where agents are not function well, they need to be sanctioned, and some of the sanctioning can be transfers as punishment. I want to know, we are in America here, and many of the of agents are working at their stations and working at their places. And so in this case, when people are to be sanctioned and maybe they are to be transferred to the other side, will their work be considered or what? Because you may transfer somebody from one place to another, and because of the work he does or she does for her living is at the place he is being transferred. And so this also brings another issue of thoughts. That is one. Two.
Mama, before you go on, I just want to say that the issue of sanctions and things probably is out of the present scope of what we are discussing. But I just want to say that when we discuss that, what I'd said is that the scope of sanctioning and things is something which is still under discussion. Number two, we don't want to, and I also wanted try to devalue this idea that transfers are the main tool for sanctioning of agents. And we need to, because we need to look at transfers on the more positive things. But of course, if you are a tent, any transfer is dependent on the fact that you are tent. And that's the way I understand that the church does its transfers. Tent ministers are not just moved anywhere. They are moved, even if they have to be moved, they are moved within the same environment that they can go to from their normal places of abode so that they can undertake their normal works. So I'm sure all that is in the frame. So I don't think this sanctioning thing, we should highlight too much on it at this stage, because that's not the first cause recall for the church. The church wants first for us to be able to imbibe this idea of strategic planning. And once it's well grounded and we all understand it very well, before I think anybody will introduce any very serious sanctioning regime in. So I don't think that should be the focus of the discussion. The focus of the discussion should be that the processes that we are introducing, are we able to bring them on board, and are we able to make them work for us? And I think that's the level on which we should proceed. And the sanctioning thing,
thank you.
Please pay very little
Thank you.
attention to it at the moment. Can we proceed, Madam? Michael?
Yeah, Papa, maybe I missed it.
I'm saying
Yeah,
that
Michael, go ahead.
I put this across because there are some authorities who may take this as for granted. And so when things are not going well, the only end of it is to get you out of the place, so that we know this is not the main target. And even if there should be something, a critical thought must be considered. Then
Exactly,
the other,
Madam.
yeah, the other thing, Presbyterian Church of Ghana, and you are talking from Ghana, but in the strategic planning, if we come to the other side of our place here, we see that most of our churches are those who pay the agents, and there's no strategic plan to effect these things to help the agents. And so I just want to suggest that we think of those things also, so that we can also develop some strategic plan where the agents are paid by the church, the local church. So in America, we don't have uniform payments, but the agents are those who pay the people. And there are times it is difficult. So there could be a help if we have a strategic plan in also in this area, in this field. So it can help wherever the church is being established, and the payment is not by the general church, but by the local congregation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think the chairperson of the NAAP is listening, because these are issues, they are unique to the presbytery. Then it's a presbytery affair, because the national things cannot cover every detail. Some of the things are unique. So when strategies are being developed in those areas, then it will be a presbytery specific strategy that then will be carried through. And so, because the presbyteries are free to follow policies and things that are unique to the areas, and not necessarily every only things that come from the GAO. So we are not able to sit in Ghana here and prescribe everything for North America. No, it's really impossible. So you see that as we go forward to the doing the AQTs, you're seeing that there's no prescription of strategies. We only prescribe goals and targets. And at the end of the day, the strategies that you follow are entirely unique to you because of your unique areas. And nobody is making a specific prescription that you should follow. So that will be very clearer to us as we go on into the next set of slides. There was a Michael who wanted two participants. That was Michael.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Michael, can you come up?
Yeah, so I may have missed this, but since the TYRP is a document, or is something that must be done by the congregation, I'm wondering whether it has to come from the session, or it has to you have to manage from whatever plans that the committees will have, and then we put together, and then the session or the entire congregation approves of it. So the question is, where does it start from and where does it end for us?
Well, the responsibility of for the court is the session. So the session will have to initiate the processes that will lead to the production of the TYRP. So I will say that the primary responsibility becomes to have a TYRP will be the session and the agent in charge. They will have to take that in charge, but they need input from the committees, because in some of the cases they will be committing the committees, so they will go through a consultative process. Let me tell you how I did a TYRP and AQT. We did it in my congregation in the Grand Presbytery last year or the year before. What we did was that the agent in charge called a few of us. The IC, because I was there, he called me, and 2 or 3 other people. We sat in his office, and I think the chairpersons of the committees, and we sat in his office, and we went through the TYRP aspect of it. And we generally agreed on a certain way to go with the TYRP, the targets to set ourselves. Then we had a wider forum where all the committees were present, plus all the session members. And it was like a workshop we are having now. And then the suggested TYRP was placed on the table, and it was discussed by all the committees. And then where there were issues and things, they were raised. And once they were agreed, then the committees now were told, take your TYRP now and go and prepare your strategies, and come and tell us what strategies you think we can follow to achieve this. So when it came to the TYRP, it was made interactive in a way that the agent in charge worked with a small team. Now we are asking that everybody should have an SPFT. So if you have an SPFT, probably they will sit down and agree on the TYRP, recommend it to session adopts it, then it's given back to the committees and asks that go to the next thing that we are going to do. Go and prepare your AQTs for us to be able to proceed. Because the AQTs are prepared first and foremost by the committees. That's their primary responsibility. So this is how I think the process should go. And I think what makes it easier for us now is that we are asking you to have a strategic plan facilitation team. And the membership includes the chairpersons of the committees. So if that SPF team meets and agrees on these targets, then the only authority above them will be the session. And if the session also concurs to it, then it becomes a document that each of the committees then will be instructed to work with. So I think this should be the simple process.
Okay, thank you, Papa.
Okay, thanks. Okay, there was a second hand. If your question is answered, we'll proceed. Emmanuel, we still not heard from you.
Yeah, Papa, my question is about the KPI number 5. This is quite a general question, but number 5, there is an encouragement for groups to visit palaces, part of the social activities.
There's
But
no
my
KPI
worry was, why didn't we encourage political activities?
Just a moment. There's no KPI called 5. It should be DSS something. DSS 05. Is that what you're talking about?
ESS.
Social
services.
Right.
ESR 5.
Yes.
Yes.
ESR 05. Okay. Okay. I hear that ESR has that. If any presbytery thinks that he wants to also do a political activity, but at the time, this is what was agreed on. I can't answer the detail of that question because I'm not the ESR man. But for now, this is the activity that has been put there. It doesn't preclude a political version of it. And in the future, if the GAC thinks that a political version of it should be brought up, it will be brought up. But some of the presbyteries already are doing this. Like Ashanti Presbytery has developed it to a very large extent. And the church thought that especially in Ghana here, it may not be relevant to North America, but in Ghana here, wherever they think is important, they should do that mission. So it's a sort of scale up from something that presbyteries are doing already. That's why it's there. We have about an hour to go. Can I go to the next slide, because I think it's a little bit long, and we don't have enough time for questions on it. So, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, we'll go to the next set of slides.
Carry on, Mr. Hasty. Carry on.
Okay. And like I said, this is a rather long one. But for me, if you see that TORP is much simpler, but this is a lot more involving. So this will take more than about 40 minutes to go through. So we need to be a little patient on this. So this we've seen already, and we are still dealing with Pillar 3. We've done with the 3-year rolling plan, and we are moving on to the annual quarterly target. And I'm sure it will be shown on the next slide also. So we are doing 3-year rolling plan and annual quarterly target. We just finished with this one, and we are moving on to that. Same thing is going to say. So we are looking at the annual quarterly targets. So we see that if we look at the diagram here, Pillar 3, planning for implementation, we finished with 3-year rolling plan. We are doing the annual quarterly targets. And we'll be looking under annual quarterly target at strategies. Then under strategies, quarterly targets and annual cost. These are the elements that form the annual quarterly targets: strategies, quarterly targets, and annual cost. So we'll look at all these as we go through. And like I've said, the annual quarterly target becomes, this is the action plan for the court. So when you complete the annual quarterly target, then you will have an action plan for the court. And this is where you go to if you ask yourself, what do I do next week? What do I do next month? This is the document that you go to. So when you complete this, it's actually an action plan. We could have called it the annual action plan easily, if we as an alternative name for it. And this is prepared annually for year 1 of the TYRP. I think we've said this already. And for each goal, this is prepared for each goal, we select strategies. This is a general thing. So for each goal, so you say, I'll win souls for Christ. I'll win 20 souls for Christ in 2021. Then the strategy, how are you going to win the souls? This is the question of the strategy. So it's the how and what you do to win the souls. So when you are listing your strategies, you are trying to answer these particular questions. So there may be several things that you do to be able to win souls. And those will be your strategies or your activities that you undertake to win souls. And for each of these strategies or activities, we have to determine what the quarterly targets for us are. So if I say, again, using the winning souls is a very easy one to use. I'm going to win souls for Christ. What do I want to do what are my strategies? So I say, okay, I'll do house-to-house evangelism. Then he says, what is your target in quarter 1 for house-to-house evangelism? What is your target for quarter 1, 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4? So generally, this then becomes what guides you in drawing your quarterly activities, list of activities that you want to do, because you know that you set yourself a target for that quarter, and so you do things that helps you to meet that target that you set for that quarter, for that particular activity. And it's not all the activities or strategies that every quarter you will do something on. So as we go further, this will become clearer. And then for the purposes of budgeting, there's also a cost aspect, the annual cost for doing that, undertaking that strategy or activity. This calls for a little bit of costing at the planning stage. And that is why the best people to do this are the committees, because they can then discuss all the details that are required to be discussed. Like we said, it's a focal activity of the departments, committees, and groups for the approval of the court or the council. So if you are in the presbytery, then this becomes a focal activity of your department. But if it's also under the preview of a particular committee, then the department will have to get a committee to assist it to come with whatever program that it needs to do. If you are in the districts and the congregations, then it's just your committees that you have to fall on. And sometimes you need also input from the groups. Like for instance, if you want to go and do a soul winning program, and YPG is very important in your scheme of things, then you want to also get YPG to set itself the same, give them some targets to work to, and they need to bring you the way they are going to do it, which then you will include in the mission and evangelism target setting. So sometimes the groups are of importance there, and where we want to leverage on them to help us do these things. Because if the group YPG wins souls, it's a church that has won souls. You see, and so this is very important. And if we do this properly, then when we are allocating resources, we can do so efficiently. Because we'll be focusing on the things that yield results for us. And that means our resources then will be used in an efficient manner. And then this framework also forms the basis for quarterly monitoring and evaluation. So when you're preparing your quarterly reports, this is the document that you will prepare to. What did I say I was going to do in quarter 1? And to what extent did I meet the targets that I set myself? So these are the important uses of the AQT. Now, the template for the AQT looks like this. Now, let me say that the AQT, the template is for each goal. The template is for each goal. So every goal, every relevant goal, or what word did we use? Relevant or applicable goal that you've selected, you have to complete an AQT for it, like we've done here. Now, there are 3 parts to the AQT, but I've only shown 2 parts here. The first part is actually the credentials, the name of your congregation and or district or presbytery as and other things which identifies who is doing this. And then the second part then comes onto the committee that is working on the AQT. And so if you have mission and evangelism in the congregation, they'll be completing 2 AQTs. One for winning souls for Christ, and the second one for mission activities, isn't it? Because those are the 2 goals that they have to work with. So, and this example has been done for winning soul for Christ, MEO1. And so the second part is name of the committee, mission and evangelism. The goal they are working on is MEO1, and the goal is win souls for Christ. And the KPIs that they have for them are 2, number of souls won and percentage of previous year's membership. And as when we look at it under TYRP, the first year, the CY, the current year target was 30 and our percentage was 20. I hope you remember that we worked with those numbers in the previous TYRP for CY, current year. So you see that this information completely comes from your TYRP. So if you've done your TYRP already, you only copy this information from there onto this form. And then after that, the work starts. That you need to select your strategies and set yourself your quarterly targets, and then input your annual cost. And this is just an example that I just made out of my mind. I didn't get this from. And so all the selections here are purely my own selections that I've put in there. And it doesn't apply to any particular congregation anywhere. So I say we're going to have a monthly evangelism school, obviously to train people on evangelism. And I've used less words here because of the space. But typically, I say I'll train 10 persons in my monthly evangelism school every quarter. Are you clear on this? So the target that I'm setting myself, and this is not, there's no soul ones yet. It's only training people to do evangelism in an evangelism school. But it's part of the strategy of the mission evangelism to get more people in the congregations to be doing soul winning. So the monthly evangelism school will train 10 persons each quarter. So that's the target. And we set ourselves that it will cost us about 1,200 in a year to do so. Probably this will just be the allowance that you give to the facilitator or his transportation or something. So in this case, it's saying like 300 cedis every quarter. If he's doing monthly, it's like 100 cedis a month. So that's the way this has been set. Now, to support our evangelism work, we'll do prayer meeting. And we are expecting that on average, 10 persons will be participating in it every quarter and weekly. So every week, we are expecting at least 10 persons to participate. And so at the end of the quarter, we do an average of the attendance to the prayer meeting, and we are expecting to hit 10 or more. And that's the target that we set ourselves. And then individual members of our church will be involved in doing evangelism. And we are saying that we expect that at least every quarter, 20 persons will say that they made an attempt to win souls for Christ. So again, all these things are not measuring the souls won, but is saying that because we say we are doing 1-1-1, we are encouraging our members to win souls. So we are saying that at least 20 persons each month should bring records that they made an attempt to win souls. And then we also expect our groups to organize mission events, activities to win souls every quarter. So In the first quarter, we are saying that we are expecting Children's Service and Women Fellowship to be doing this. That means we are going to ask them to draw their own program. And the second quarter is YPG Men's Fellowship. The third quarter is JY and YAF. And you see that there's nothing in the fourth quarter here. That's the way this is planned. And we say that we need about 2,000. That the church should budget for 2,000 to support the groups to be able to do these programs. And they have to determine what sort of program they want to do and all those things. So the committee then will work with the groups to develop their programs. And then when they get approval of session, the programs will be implemented. And because there's a budget for it, they can always also go and ask for money to support the groups in doing their programs. So this, when we talk about strategies and things, this is about completing the AQT. This is about what we are doing. The target is that when we've done all these activities, at the end of the year, we should have won 30 souls. If you come to the reporting format, you see that every quarter we will also be tracking how many souls have been won. So this is not that you wait to the end of the year before you measure the number of souls you've won. As you do all these activities, souls should be won, and we can track them on quarterly basis through our quarterly report. But we are not looking at the quarterly reports now. So this is our AQT template. It looks simple enough, but if we want to be effective with the strategies, then these strategies must be carefully selected. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of time talking about how we select the strategies for this. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on doing that. So I think I'm going components of the strategic plan. I think we've looked at this. They are the strategies, they are the targets, and I think I've discussed all of them in my first slide. So this one will show the quarterly targets frame, and the next one will show the budget. So I think I discussed all of these in my on the first slide. The same slide, but focusing on each of these elements. And then this annual cost becomes an input into the. So when you go for budget for mission and evangelism, as far as winning souls is concerned, we are asking for 8,700. There will be a second one which will do mission activity. It will also have a budget. So mission and evangelism will have a total budget of 8,700 plus the budget in that other one. And that's what will be in the budget. So next year when you go and ask for this money, it's already in the budget and nobody will say it's not in the budget. The only limitation that you may have is cash flow at any one time. But in terms of budgeting, you have been fully covered. The next slides will then focus on formulation of strategies. How do we formulate the strategies? Because this is left completely on your lap. You have very little support in doing that from all the documents we've given you. So you have to work your own strategy, which is suitable for your environment. So we'll move to formulation of strategies. And like I've said already, strategies are activities undertaken by the court to achieve the goal set in the TYRP. So these are activities. The strategies are, you can just replace the word strategy with activities if it's most appropriate for you, but that's what we have. Strategies required for the same goal will differ from one place to the other. I'm emphasizing this again. And so the choice of strategy is left to the court. Now, I'm going to take you through a process of doing a strategy for one goal. And I've selected goal number AHRM03 from the Congressional TYRP. And that goal, so if you go to the TYRP, you say that it's AHRM03. And the goal is that the roll book and membership data for the congregation is regularly updated. What is the key performance indicator we have been given there? The number of times updated report is published within 14 days after each quarter. Now, so if you are doing the quarterly updates, then that means every year we should do what? 4 updates. But in this year that we are doing, because we didn't have this target on our hands, we only did it at the end of the year. So our actual performance for the previous year was once. But now we are improving it to 4 per year. And that means fully meeting the key performance indicator, which says that it should be updated at least 14 days after each quarter. So we are fully going to meet that requirement. I'm not too sure, but probably it's a mandatory and fixed target as we have there. So we cannot really vary it. Now, what is the process that we follow? And again, we'll go through this slowly because it's a little complicated. So I start by asking myself several questions. And the questions that you ask yourself in the process is to help you know what your current situation is. So based on your current situation, what strategies do you have to follow to be able to update your membership database or your row book quarterly? You see where we are going to. So, so the first question I ask myself is the goal, and this is an example, and this is entirely my own approach to this. Sometimes you don't need to go through all this process. The answers are sometimes obvious. But if they are not obvious, then you need to go through this process. But let's go through the long haul, and then we know where the easier ones can be dealt and where these more complex ones will be dealt with. So the first question I ask is the goal HRM for relevant to my congregation, or what applicable to my congregation? Then I say a comment. It's a mandatory goal. So that means I don't have a choice of it. It's mandatory. So it's not relevant, but it's required by me to do it. I keep forgetting that word that I've used previously. It's applicable. That's the word. It's applicable to my congregation because it's mandatory. And so is any action required? So that is a goal relevant to my congregation? The answer should be yes. Generally, there should be no other answer. You see. But if it was a goal which is not in my TYRP, my answer would be no. Not in TYRP, no further action. But that question will not arise at all because you don't even see it to ask yourself that question. So really, the only answer to this question, first question, if it's in your TYRP, should be yes. So probably it shouldn't be asked at all. But so you see that because we asked that question and no answer says no further action, so you don't need to do anything else. You go to sleep on that one and you go to the next one. Now, the second question then is, it said update a row book. So the first question is, do I have a row book at all? And so, and the comment is that you can only update what you have, you see. So if you have it, then, so if the answer is yes, then it says proceed to the next question. That means you need to do something else. But if your answer is no, I don't have a row book, then before you can update a row book, you have to prepare one. So your strategy is actually determined already here. Prepare a row book or database and start a monthly or quarterly update process. You can only update what you have. So really, after this, all we need to do is that we don't even need to ask the rest of the questions. We don't have one, we need to put one. Now, probably the only question that you ask is whether you want to do it as a manual database or a digital database. Will come down. So you say that if your answer is no, then you have what you need to do and you continue to do it. But if your answer is yes, I have a row book, then we go to question 3. Is your row book paper-based? The only reason we are asking this question is that digital is preferred to paper-based, because it's easier to update a digital database or a row book than a manual row book. So that's the only reason why this question is being asked. If it's your row book paper-based, if it's yes, it says proceed to the next question, which is question 4. But if it's not paper-based, the answer will be no. But of course, if it's not paper-based, then that means it's digital-based. So the answer will be no. So he said, if your answer is no, that means that you probably have a digital-based database. And so the next question for you to answer will be in question 6. You have to ignore 4 and 5. But if your answer was yes, you go to question 4. Do you want to change the paper-based system to a digital-based system? If your answer is yes, then you have what you have to do. You have a strategy or the processes that you have to follow. It starts with upgrading to a digital system and start with your monthly and quarterly update process. So you have a paper-based already, upgrade it to digital-based, then you can proceed. So you want to do that. But if your answer is no, you have a database, it's paper, you don't want to change it to digital, then it says proceed to question 5. Then question 5 says, do you update your database row book at least once a quarter? Because that's what your target is. If you have a database, it says update it once a quarter. So you are asking yourself, do I already do that? Then that means I really don't have a problem if I'm doing that already. But if I'm not doing that, that means I have to set up a system to be able to update it quarterly. So that is, you intend to keep a paper-based system. This is assumption. And if the answer is yes, I have a database system which I update regularly every quarter, then you still don't have a problem. It says go to 7. But if the answer is no, then the job you need to do first, before you can do a quarterly update, is to set up a system that will help you to do, I say, monthly or a quarterly based update of your processes. So you see that as we go through what we really need to do, and so everybody will be under a different circumstance. And when you're answering these questions, you are thinking of resources, you are thinking of where you are, what is available to you, can you afford, and all those things. You are trying to understand all those processes. So if your answer is no, then instead start the monthly processes. Otherwise, proceed to question 7. But you know that we had an earlier question which said we should proceed to question 6. That's the only reason why we are jumping it. Do you update your digital database at least once a quarter? So you answer the question that you have a database which is digital. So the same question that we asked in question 5 on the paper-based system, we are asking it on the digital-based system. Do you update it regularly? And this assumes that you have a digital system. If the answer is 7, then we go to the same question 7. But otherwise, you have to start a monthly or quarterly update process for your digital-based system. So you see that the question answer to no for 5 and 6 are the same. But the 1 is just for paper-based, and the 5 is for paper-based, and 6 is for digital-based. And then the last question that you ask here, are you happy? This one we are really, it's like when you want to shut your computer down and you say, shut it down, and you say, are you sure that you want to shut it down? So that's what you are doing here. Are you happy with the system of update of your database? This one, your answer was that I have already a quarterly process of updating my database, whether it is digital or paper-based. So you're asking yourself, am I happy with the way I'm doing it? If the answer is yes, then really, you don't need to do anything. Wait, do what you do quarterly already and provide the update as is requested, isn't it? So that is the easiest thing you can do. But if you are not happy with the system that you are doing, then probably all you need to do is to tweak the system you are doing, do a small improvement. What improvement you have to determine it by your committee, technically people who understand what they want to update. They will improve that system. Once it's accepted by session, then that becomes the new system that helps you to report quarterly that this update is taking place. So you see that based on these questions, we get 4 possible outcomes from this questioning process that we've done. The first is your status. You have a database that you update monthly or quarterly, and you are happy with that process. You see, and they say then that's the least effort that you need to put in. You continue with what you are good at doing and provide the data at the end of every quarter to show that you are complying with the requirement. But the second status is that you have a database you are happy with, but you do not update it at least quarterly, or you are not happy with the update process. Then this is your only work that you have is to work on your processes, but your database is intact, and it's only your processes of update that you need to work on. Then you can proceed to update regularly. The third status that you could find yourself in is that you have a paper-based rulebook, and you want to make it a digital-based rulebook or database. So the action there is that you then have to upgrade your database to digital, and then you start your reporting system. Or the last situation is that you do not have a reliable rulebook. So that means you have to start from scratch to create a rulebook, and then you can continue with your monthly or quarterly updates. So it depends on what your status is, then you choose the process that you go through. Now, and the process that you choose that you want to go through will also depend on the resources that you have available to you. But it's mandatory. So that means you by all means have to do something about it. By all means have to do something about it. And so you have to put it on your priority list. So when you have these choices, I say if we want to go forward, and we are working through an example, our status is status number 3. We have a paper-based system, and we want to make it a digital system. And so our action required is generally to upgrade the database to a digital system, start a monthly or quarterly update process, and then provide the update as required. Now, so who are the people who are involved in selecting these strategies? They must be people who are knowledgeable in the subject matter. So, and our committee systems is based on people who are knowledgeable. So if we've properly selected our committee members, then we will think that they are capable of giving us good answers. They must be aware of the circumstances and the environment of your church or your district, so that they can make the right calls as to what you are able to do, what is realistic, and what is achievable for your court. So that's the awareness of the environment and circumstances. And they must be capable of asking the right questions and arriving at appropriate strategic paths that we need to follow. So they must be capable of, these questions I've asked the question because I'm knowledgeable in the areas of statistics, so I'm able to ask all the questions. Probably when it comes to ESR or DSS, I may not be that competent to ask the right questions. So this is very important by the people we put in our committees. So we are saying that this is best done at the committee level where this expertise resides. So we go to the next step of completing the template for what we've started with. I told you this is going to be a long haul. So first of all, this is the second part of the template. I said the first part is the name of congregations and things. So I've not gone into that. That is easily filled. The second part is the filling the second part of the report, which is putting in your goals. So the committee is administration, human resource, and human resource management. The goal is HRM 03, and its roll book and membership data for the congregation is regularly updated. And the target is that this is done 4 times in the year by the 14th day after each quarter. So this is what the goal that we are working to. So now we have to determine our strategies. We've already determined what our strategic path is, and that is to upgrade the database to a digital system, start a monthly or quarterly update process, and provide data as required. So you see that in this statement here, there are 4 or about 3 parts. Upgrade the database to a digital system. So that's the first one. There's a step of upgrading. Then there's a step of monthly or quarterly updates. And there's a step of providing the data. So already in this statement, it's a compound statement that I can isolate my activities or strategies from. You see? So if you go on the right, that's what I've done. So what are my strategies? I say upgrade the database to a digital format or in a digital format. Okay. Then adopt a process for regular updates. This will have to be adopted by session and agreed. And then update the database within the last 7 days of every month. Now, the standard says that I should do it by the 14th day after the quarter. But when I'm doing this, I say I want to do better than what I'm being asked. I want to finish my update before the quarter ends. You see, so in the last 7 days of the quarter, I will start working on my update, and by the time the month ends, I would have finished all my updates for the month, for the quarter. So I've put in a strategy here which is far superior to what I'm asked to meet. And that means if I'm able to meet this all the time, and then that means that it's easy for me to meet the final outcome that I've set myself is. And then I go to the 4 and says publish a summary of the data quarterly by first Tuesday after each quarter. This is the way I decided to frame it. And the first Tuesday after each quarter could be first if it's March, it could be 1st April, which is the first Tuesday after the quarter. Or it could be 7th April, which is 7 days after the quarter, which is also a first Tuesday. So but because I've given myself up to the end of the month, of the quarter, to update, that means even if the first day is a Tuesday, I can publish. It's the first of the month, I can publish. You see how I've done this. But again, these are nuances that I have put into this. And so you can make it very simple for yourself, or you can make it as complicated as I'm making it for myself here. It all depends on you and the depth of your understanding of the processes that you are dealing with. And if you understand it well, then you can be a little complex. If you don't understand it too much, be as simple as possible. That's the advice that I can give. So you see that I've selected 4 strategies that I'll put onto my form by doing what I've done. And it's because I've thought through this properly, and I can do this, an advice session as to the processes we have to follow to be able to achieve the goal that we have been given. That means if it comes to next year and I have to meet the same goal, I don't have to go through all these strategies again. Probably it's only the last one last 2 that I'll focus on for this, because I would have completed the first 2. So these are very important. So once we've selected our strategies, then we don't have to break them into quarterly targets, isn't it? That's the next group of things that we need to do. So the quarterly targets breaks the strategy into, I call it, chewable quarterly chunks. When you have food to eat, and you put the plate in front of you, you put it in your mouth blow by blow. That means if you are eating fufu and you are using your fingers, so you don't take the whole fufu and put it in your mouth. You do your pieces. You break your fufu and then you put your small hole in it. Then you take a scoop of soup, then you swallow it, and then you take a little bit of meat and then you chew it. So you don't put more than you can chew in your mouth at a time. So this is what I call the chewable chunks that you take. So we say we break it into that quarterly chewable chunk so that we can monitor ourselves quarterly and see whether we are doing well. When you put the first chunk and there's too much pepper in it, you don't continue on eating. You change the style of eating. You decide whether you want to put water by your side and still continue to eat the hot soup. Then it also provides focus for activities designed to achieve the target of the goal. And then the targets are benchmarks for quarterly reports and evaluation of the progress. So when we are doing your quarterly report, these quarterly targets becomes the benchmarks that you refer to in providing your quarterly reports. So we continue. What are the types of targets that we can set ourselves? Some of the targets that we can set ourselves with something which directly measures the KPI. So it says win souls, or say I'll do a house to house, and every quarter I want to win 10 souls. You see, so the target that you set yourself for your strategy is directly the same as the KPI that you have for your goal. So that is one-on-one. It's very easy to work with. And then it can be an output which is other than your KPI. For instance, if you want to train people on how to win souls, then you can probably talk about the number of people you've trained. But it's not that is not direct measure of your KPI. So there are other measures of targets for strategies which are not direct KPIs. But they are needed to be done before we can achieve the KPIs. You understand what I'm saying? So we should be aware that these are the two types. And then I say, how do these targets occur? Because you are doing it quarterly. Some of the targets can be repeated. Update your database quarterly. So every quarter, database is updated by the 7th or by the first Tuesday of the month. You can write it there, and every quarter it will be the same, or slightly by 7th, by the first Tuesday in April, by the first Tuesday in July, by the first Tuesday in October, and by the first Tuesday in January. So this becomes your the target that you set yourself, and you see that they are repeated targets. Sometimes they are progressive targets. That means the first quarter, you do something that you build on in the second quarter, and you do something that you build on in the third quarter. And when we go to the example, we'll see all these types. So these are milestones that you need to achieve, and they start, it's like a programmatic target. It's a progressive target. So every time you are moving from one stage to the other. And some of the targets are just one-off. You do it in one quarter and it's finished. It doesn't come up again. So those can also be set for ourselves. And so we'll see how this applies in the typical framework. So now I've taken the 4 strategies and I've set quarterly targets to them. Now, the first strategy is upgrade membership database in the digitized format. First of all, this is a KPI targets that I will set myself, because my KPI target is to update the database and report on it. And upgrading my database is not doing that, but I need to do that before I can do it. So it's a non-KPI target, and it is progressive, because first of all, I have to get session to adopt the upgrade process. So that means a proposal is written, contractors or people are selected to help us do it. We take the proposal to session, and session says it is approved. Go ahead and go and do it. And we tell them what our program is and everything, and they approve it. So we say that by the close of the first quarter, we should have gotten session to adopt the process that we are going to use to update. Are you going to buy a software? Are you going to use Churchminder that is common, or another software, or anything? You have to decide all by session before the process starts. Now, then I say that once session has adopted it, within the second quarter, I'll start the update process. And by the end of the second quarter, I'm expecting that I would have uploaded at least 50% of the data that I have on my members already onto this system. And we've used 50% because probably there are other things that go with that upload. Probably you have to get everybody to come and take a digital photograph, and there's some data that was not in your paper system that you want to go in your digital system that you want them to add. Yes? Somebody says he's confused.
Don't tell me tap to speak.
Pardon me? Is somebody wanting to ask a question? Okay, I proceed. And we said by the end of the third quarter, all our members should have been uploaded onto the database. And then when that is done, whichever team is responsible for this should issue a completion report to session. So a session will know that this part of the project is completed. So that's why I have in the fourth quarter that a completion report is issued. So I've done this. I'm an engineer, so you can see that it's showing in the way that I've programmed this, because I'm used to programming things. But every project starts and every project must be completed. So the project started with what was session adopting that we should go ahead, and it's completed by us reporting to session that we've completed. And that's what that probably a completion report means. Probably you may not even have to write anything. Probably you just go to session and say we've completed. It goes in the minutes of session that this project was completed. Then we are finished. So all these things are big words. Now the second one says adopt a process for updates. Now
I have a question.
Yeah, please ask.
My question is about publication. I mean, publishing your report or quarterly update.
Please raise your voice a little. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about publishing.
Yeah, you are clear now. Please go ahead.
Yeah, please. When we publish our report or quarterly update, are we publishing it to, let's say the congregation is publishing it into a database for the district or the presbytery or to the GA?
Okay. Again, forgive me, but I use the word publish. But what this is affecting is that you provide these quarterly updates to the district minister. So in your quarterly report to the district, the update will be given. But I will also expect that I use the publish because, again, if you are a transparent congregation, you can say that you can put a copy of the summary data for the quarter on your notice board, and it's been published. Or you put it on, if you have a website page, you put it on the website page and it's been published. So publish here is not used like going to the printers to publish something. It's a one-pager. This will just be a one-pager set of tables. That we are saying that this is my current membership and broken down into children, junior youth, and all the categories. And it's about that. It's a single table report, which will summarize where the congregation is. And if you like, you can even make it more interesting by saying that this is where we started at the end of the year. The first quarter, this is our membership. And you can show a quarterly trend of how that membership is changing if you want to make it more complex for yourself. But that provides more information to show people that the church is growing. And so putting it on your notice board or putting it on your website or putting it on your WhatsApp page, they are all forms of publication. And sending a copy to the district minister is also a form of publication. So when I use the word publish, this is what I mean. And it's a word that I've used. You don't have to use that same word if it connotes something different to you. Probably if I'm sharing this with my session, they will look at the publish, they will say, we think of publishing different, so use a different word. And then I'll change it and it becomes something which everybody understands easily, like in the same way that you're asking the question now. So again, it's a word that I've used, but what it entails really is probably putting something on the notice board.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So when you look at the number 4, which is publish the summary of the data quarterly by second, well, first I said first Tuesday, now I've said second Tuesday now, don't mind me. And you do it once a quarter. That is what is there. So you see that the once is repeated for all the 4 quarters. That means when you publish it, then it's finished. And so it is an example of a repeated output. But this output also measures our target, our performance indicator. It's a direct measure of a performance indicator because that's what the system expects you to do. So if you look at adopt the process for regular updates, you say that when you go to session to say that we are going to update the database, you should also tell them the way in which it will be updated, because that is a measure of, that is what you are expected to do as an output. So session will also have to adopt that process so that when the database is finished, then they ensure that that data is regularly enforced, because update is a process, and that process should be clear to the session before it is used. So I'm giving you the example. Then update database within the last 7 days of every month. Now you see that the updates we are looking for is quarterly, but again we've gone for a monthly update here, because if you are using a digital system, there's no reason why you have to wait for a quarter before you update. It's very easy to do a monthly update, and then you don't get overwhelmed with the problem. So I'll say, if I'm doing it, I'll say I will update this once a month and report once a quarter. You see, because the update process is different from the reporting process. It's the third quarter, is the third month in every quarter that then you do a report and put out. So because I have only a paper system, I'll do once a quarter. I won't bother myself. But the moment my digital system is complete, I know I can move to three times a quarter. That's how I can update every month. So this is an example of the way this can be completed. And the last item there is annual cost in our table. So we look at all elements except annual cost. This is determined for each strategy. It's an input into the annual budget. And the components of costing normally is, do I have any human resource cost? Do I have to hire somebody? Do I have to pay somebody an allowance or something? Are there logistics? Do I have to go and hire something? Go and hire speakers? Go and hire this? Is there travel and transport? Do I have to give people money to go and arrange things? Normally, these are the elements of costing that you do. And I've said here that do not include routine administrative costs. For instance, if you come and hold a meeting in the church office and they give you water, that water is paid for and covered under administrative cost. So you don't need to put it in the costing that you are doing. If you are giving regularly, your committee members are giving 10 cedis each month to buy credit, it's not part of your project cost. Somebody will cover it under administrative cost for all committees in the budget. And it's not a cost which is targeted at achieving the result that has been set for you. So things we do with the meeting of the committees and all those things, you don't really need to cover their cost, because they'll be the same for probably every committee. And but if normally you meet in your church premises, but for a particular project, you have to travel and hire a place to meet, then hiring the place to meet becomes a cost for you. You want to have a retreat, and you want to go to a special place in New York to go and have the retreat. It's a hotel, you have to hire the room. People have to sleep, they have to pay for the cost of accommodation, and those all become actual cost, though it is a meeting towards a particular end. So those then become specific costs that you need to cover. But if they are just routine, the things which are occurring on a daily basis, using the office computer and using data in the office and all those things, they are not cost to your committee, they are cost to the church. So these are the build up of the cost. So once you can build each of your costs, then you put it as the last column in your AQT. Then AQT would have been completed. And as you can see, it's only item 1 that I've costed on my table, because that is where people have to sit and do this work. You have to give them allowances to come and do it, or you have to pay for a software, or you have to, yes, that sort of thing. The young men who are keen the thing for you, you buy kenke for them every time they come, and this is all part of your cost. In the US, probably you are not buying kenke. Probably you are buying McDonald's, which make you grow fat. But so that is the one that I say will cost 4,000 cedis. Adopting the process, when session meets to adopt the process, doesn't cost any money. When you are updating the database, probably the office administrator who is doing the process together with the agent in charge who approve the updates. And it doesn't cost any extra money. So you see that is dash. Publishing it is probably sending an email to someone or printing it on a sheet of paper and posting it on your notice board. It doesn't cost you anything. So you can see that all the other things are dash, except the upgrade, which will cost for some expert and logistic inputs to and time to be able to get it done. So then that is costed, and what is involved in it is costed. And it's a once it's finished in a year, it doesn't occur next year. The others, especially 3 and 4, if the same objective is repeated, the goal is maintained, then 3 and 4 will have to continue to take place, and it will not cost the church anything to do it. Anything additional from what it is administrative. So these are the things that I just want to share with you in the process of completing your AQT. And I've taken a lot of time and walk through an example, because this is something which is entirely in your court. You have to do everything concerning this. And understanding this process for me is the most important step in all the training that we've done. If you don't understand this, then you cannot move forward to the extent that you can use this as your action plan for the year. Now, there are a couple of things I want to say before I bring this session to a close. When you do your plan, and this applies to both the TYRP and the AQT. Somebody's mic is open and is disturbing the rest of us. Auntie Agi, we can hear you. Are you talking to all of us? Otherwise, mute. Thank you. Mute. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah, you can hear. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, please.
So the next thing, and I'm just saying this so I can close this. When you prepare your TYRPs and your EQTs, you have to sit back and evaluate it to see whether they are smart, simple, measurable, realistic, achievable, and time-bound. So the first question is for me is on the performance level. Will the strategies help me achieve the target KPIs for the goal? You've set yourself a certain target that you want to achieve in your 3-year rolling plan. And for the first year, you are setting your activities to be able to achieve this. You have to ask yourself, the things I'm doing, would they contribute for me to be able to fill my TYRP report at the end of the year and say that I achieved all the goals that I set myself? So that's the most important question you need to ask yourself. Now, then the second is normally what stops a lot of us. They say, oh, no money. They say the treasurers always say there's no money. The financial requirements. Are the financial requirements reasonably accommodated in the budget? If whatever you are proposing cannot be reasonably accommodated in the budget, then it's not realistic. Then it is not realistic. Because realistic is that whatever you want to do should be within your resources. So if the budget cannot accommodate it, then it's just on paper and it will never get done. So every time we need to really ask ourselves about this, whether, and this time of 50-50 also, you need to really ask yourself whether your financial requirements are reasonable and they can be accommodated by the budget. If they cannot be accommodated, then you have to ask yourself, what can the budget accommodate? And then you have to then look at your targets that you set yourself and the activities that you are undertaking to be able to work within your budget. Then your goal becomes SMART. And then your activities then can be undertaken and you are likely to be able to achieve the goal. Now, and this is recapping. The annual quarterly targets is the action plan for the court. So if all the quarterly targets for each of the goals are put together, they become the action plan for the court. But each of them is an action plan. The 2 or 3 of them for each committee will be the action plan for the committee. And so this is very important. So when the committees are giving their quarterly reports, they will come with the, what they've taken on the AQTs. Then for each goal, we select strategies. And for each strategy, we select quarterly targets and annual cost. And this is just a recap. And I'm sure this should be, I'm still going on. I think I've missed that one with the evaluating for the TYRP and AQT. One slide should have moved somewhere. This slide should have come after this, what I did previously. So the evaluating your TYRP and AQT, there's the institutional arrangement that you need to evaluate. And institutional is that the question you ask, can the activities be effectively undertaken within the institutional arrangements currently in place? This question is that, am I organized in a way that I can undertake these activities without problem? Or do I need to tweak the way I do business to be able to achieve this? Now, if your answer is that I need to tweak the way I'm organized, then you ask yourself the next question. Are the proposed institutional measures realistic and achievable within the governance structure of the church? So if you say an IC should be appointed, like we've done with the strategic plan as a whole, you are saying, how do we accommodate it under the governance structures of the church? And we say, well, it's an additional staff that you are putting on your team to help you to do the things you are doing. So really, the constitution is not, governance structures that don't frown on this. And it reports to the AO, and staff in the court reports to the AO. So there's nothing new about it. When we say we should do SPFT, the constitution allows us to form what? Ad hoc committees. So we go to our constitution, our governance structure, and say, this is an ad hoc committee. And when it is finished its job, we can retire it. So again, it's within our strategy. We are free to form ad hoc committees. So you also can, you can have strategies and things which requires you to probably just recruit a consultant to help you to do it. You just have to follow the procurement processes and get a consultant to help you. Or you need to get somebody to come and help you to do it for 3 months, and the person is doing it pro bono, but the person is still probably even somebody from outside your church or somebody within your own church. So these things, you always have to ask yourself these questions. And then the last level is the human resource level. Do we have the right personnel available to implement the activities? Are they actually adequately motivated to undertake the activities? Do we need to engage others? Do we need to outsource any of the activities? You can ask yourself all these questions. For instance, outsourcing could be part of your computer systems that you are setting up. You may outsource it to somebody who owns a software, who has the ability to teach you how to run the software, and you outsource it to him. And one of his jobs is to come and train your, give you the proposals. Once you accept it, train your people, come periodically to supervise the input of data, and help answer all the questions that you have. And when all that is finished and the database is ready, he writes a completion report to the session to say that this job is finished and can I be paid my final thing to go. So that is a typical outsourcing of the activities. So there is an exercise on the website, and you can pick it and go through it. Otherwise, in terms of presentations, it's the end. But if there are questions, are we already over our time limit by 30 minutes?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we are in your hands.
Yeah, 30 minutes. I think we can end here. It's very good for us. So the 30 minutes is not a problem. Yeah. Or you want to go extra, Mary?
No, well, I'm ready if there are questions, but otherwise, it's really up to you if you think you can give them some time to ask some questions or clarifications if they have any.
Okay. Now, people of God, over to you. Maybe you have 1 or 2 questions. Yeah. That is specifically of what we are doing. It has to do, ask a question which is in line of what we are doing, please.
Okay. Yeah.
Obviously.
Papa, Asunjenkayo, Papa, I have to contribute. Ajimbediako from Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think my first point is, if we are having this, then it means there is a training gap. I propose that we add this to a course within the SMT or the Trinity program, so that students who come up will know all this. This is a very broad area, and it covers everything about our church. Number 2, we were talking about publication. So for the publication aspect, we have what we call touch points. And one of them is by going by reporting quarterly and other things. I'm glad Ludwig made mention of the fact that we can publish this on our notice boards. I am recommending that we publish it on our notice boards so that we can carry our churches along. All congregations will know what we are doing and how we are performing so that they can all be along our goals. Thank you.
Those are very important points. Thank you very much, my brother. Ajin.
Any other? We want to have 2 more questions, then we bring the program to the close. 2 more questions. Okay.
Papa, they are tired. Papa, let me just, before you conclude us, just let me tell you what the expectations from the General Assembly office is on this strategic plan. That's a little bit of way forward. I should have prepared a slide for it, but I haven't. But it's very simple. The expectation is that the congregations, and for that matter, the preaching points, will prepare their 3-year rolling plan and annual quarterly targets by the close of September for the period starting from 2021. So that's the first target. I think, Papa, you have a letter on this already.
Yeah.
The second target is that the districts should be able to collate the information they receive from the congregations and add their own information that they need to add to it and submit their 3-year rolling plan and quarterly annual targets to the Presbytery by the 15th of October. And then the Presbytery will do the same and submit it to the General Assembly, to the Clerk of General Assembly by 31st October. And I think the Clerk of Presbytery, General Assembly has already communicated this to all the presbyteries. So this is the expectation going forward. Like I've said, there's a software that could have helped us to do this. It's been developed, they still continue to develop, and there are training material that will come. I'm not too sure whether it will be fully available for us to use it adequately for this first round of doing things. But if we follow the template, in future, we'll just make it easier, especially the collation up the districts and the presbyteries will become a lot more easier in the future. So I'll propose that the congregation set to work, the districts should supervise them, and if there are any questions, on the videos, we've given a website where you can send your comments. If you're having any problem in sending those comments to that website, send them to Reverend Frankisi, and then we'll pick them and help you with any answers that will help you to do that. That's the backstopping that we can do here. And then we can proceed. So in terms of the way forward, these are the expectations that are there, and hopefully they are in your hands, Chairman, sir.
Okay. Before I ask my dear sister Ernestina to move the vote of thanks, I just want to say something to motivate you for what you have done today. I think you have perfectly understood the reason why I asked for this special dispensation. Here on this thing, we have catechists and catechists, group leaders, all agents. I talk about the ministers and others, clerks from different districts and locals. Yeah, that is the reason why I just moved that for that special dispensation. I'm so happy that they are here with us. We have counted about 90 people coming from various districts and congregations and other places. So I think they have heard you well, and this will make my job very easy to, implement what we have, laid aside. And one thing I want to say, we have understood, or personally, I have understood what is called demographic transition model, because this will help me, to do a lot in the, let me say, the history of the presbytery. Where are we coming from? What we have started, and also what we can add. And in terms of collation of materials to make this work easier. I also understood you well when it comes to selection of personnel. We need to be a very bit careful and also selective to bring people on board who can really help to implement all our decisions. I heard you well also saying in our implementation, monitoring, evaluation, and supervision is very paramount. And I think I and my colleagues here, we shall buy this idea to make this process very easy for us to have our 3-year planning and other things. this is not only the last day that I will invite you. Prepare for more workshops because of the area in which we find ourselves. It is not easy, Australia, Canada, and North America here. Our system, I understood you well when you said we are in a different environment. So prepare, we shall be engaging you and my good friend, Reverend Kisi. It will be a day that I will just engage you for only ministers and maybe catechists. So we thank you so much, and we pledge to go by this workshop so that we can do diligence when it comes to target of national targets. Nobody should play with national target. It is automatically mandatory. We don't have any question or anything, but we go by every target that is a national target. And being a Presbyterian, we shall do that. We don't have our own way to sing. We all sing in the same song. We all believe in the same manner of order and also the Constitution. Thank you. Also, I heard my colleagues raising issues concerning allowances and other things. I brought that to bear during the Presbyterian session. And let me assure them, especially yesterday night, there was a whole meeting concerning that from administration and human resource management, and they have started working on it. So we thank the Lord as they are reviewing the minister's compensation package. We shall one day smile, and also, we shall one day smile. Also plan how we can also reach those who are not ministers. We have catechists and other people who are working within our environment, that they are very resourceful, they are very good in terms of consultation and other things. So there is going to be a whole package that will motivate people to come out with all that the Lord has given them as their gifts and other things. So my good friend Kofi and I, I thank you so much, and my friend also, Reverend Frank Kisi. You hear from me. Maybe tomorrow you hear from me. Then we see how far we shall also, come out with a widow's mind as appreciation, so that you have time with us. You also share with us all that the Lord has endowed you. And I know not here alone, when we come to Ghana, we have to meet and also do Georgia, how far you can come together and assist our system here, which is so rough. So I'll end here by inviting our sister, Reverend Ernestina Gapo, to move the vote of thanks, and after which Reverend Kisi also will give us the closing prayer. Then we receive the benediction. Thank you so much for this wonderful impartation. God bless you. I love you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the kind words. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman of the Presbytery. We thank you so much, Mr. Hesse and Reverend Kisi. This is a lot, I must confess. For one second, it's difficult to absorb everything. But we know, as Chairman has promised, as time goes on, where we need your help, we know that you will come in or you will join us and straighten things up for us. We are so grateful for your time, for setting this day to help us go through this strategic plan. You have imparted to us so much knowledge And we know that as time goes on, we'll be able to implement them to move our church, beloved church, the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, forward. On behalf of the chairman, on behalf of the North American Australia Presbytery, we say big thank you, Aiko, and may God richly bless you. Amen.
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 Reverend Kisi, give us the closing prayer.
Okay, Papa. Please let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for a time like this. We are grateful unto you for starting with us and taking us through our training. We also want to thank you for bringing us to a very good end. Father, we pray in the name of Jesus, according to your word in Psalm 20, the verse 4. The word says that you would give us the desires of our heart and you would make our plans succeed. Amen. Father, we pray for the North America, Australia Presbytery. And our prayer is that may you grant the presbytery its heart's desire. And Lord, may you cause all their plans to succeed. We thank you. We bless your holy name for an answered prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Receive the benediction. Now on to the hands of the Most High God, the Omnipotent, who's also known as the Omnipresent. In his care, I commit you individually, especially our brothers and fathers from Ghana, Papa Hezi and Kisi. May the Lord continue increase you. May he impart so that always you can share this knowledge and the grace. May he also protect you and strengthen you. May he bless your family and take you through all the transition of sources. Now you all go in peace. In the name of God, who is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. May your soul, may your ministry, may your life be as a tree planted beside a river. May the blessings of the Lord be with you all. Amen.
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 Over
Yeah.